All right, so here's an article here from Anthony something Gucciardelli. Gucciardi? Sure. Was the Connecticut shooter Adam Lanza also on hardcore psychotropic drugs on December 18th? Posted by Gillian, so maybe not. In mass shootings, the usage of pharmaceutical drugs, particularly psychotropic drugs, is one of the first things that should be examined when attempting to piece together the incident. Adam Lanza, the Connecticut shooter, was most likely dosing up on outlandish levels of pharmaceutical drugs, just like shooters before him. James Holmes was hooked on a cocktail of big pharma drugs that have been found to be deadlier than cocaine and heroin combined, even at quote safe levels. But the trend continues much farther. Columbine shooters Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, as well as 15-year-old Kip Kinkle, were all on psychotropic drugs. Even Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber, Michael McDermott, John Hinckley, Brian something, Mark David Chapman, and Charles Carl Roberts, the Amish school killer, were all on some form of SSRI, psychotropic pharmaceutical drugs. Even the mainstream media has been on record questioning whether or not these individuals were motivated to kill by the pharmaceutical creations, particularly in the case of Prozac using Jeff Weiss, who exhibited similar characteristics to Jared Lee Loughner, but that was years ago. Now we have scientific proof that antidepressant drugs are causing violence, suicidal behavior, and more. As Dr. Peter Breggin stated in the Huffington Post in regards to how antidepressant drugs are actually fueling suicide and violence among the heavily drugged armed forces. Antidepressants are a hoax. In this case, a hoax that is killing members of our armed services. Suicide violence link hidden by Big Pharma. In 2005, it was found that link between Prozac and suicidal behavior was kept a secret. The BBC even reported in as early as the year 2000 that Prozac led to suicide. Oftentimes, killers will end their own lives after shootings or attempt to force the cops to kill them, which is essentially a form of suicide with a mixture of murderous tendencies. If Prozac can drive someone to suicide, could it also drive someone to end someone else's life? Paxil, an antidepressant drug, was found to be linked to violent behavior in 2006. The link incited multiple lawsuits and brings up questions as to whether or not similar drugs have the same effects. Antidepressants have horrible side effects, but about the even more hardcore drugs, such as the drugs that many of the other killers were taking, these psychotropics may have been the final straw pushing Lanza and others over the edge, the final push that they needed to go through with the horrendous act. Was Lanza on the drug Fanapt? Some news outlets have begun reporting that the Connecticut shooter Adam Lanza was taking a drug known as Fanapt. Nothing has been confirmed just yet, but let's take a look at this pharmaceutical drug nonetheless. By taking a look at the Fanapt manufacturer package insert, it becomes very apparent that this is a dangerous and brand new drug with relatively little testing. Being approved back in 2009, Fanapt went through a 6-week test in around only 706 people, only half of which actually received the drug, with the other half taking a placebo. Afterwards, the drug went through a 4-week trial. At that point, only a third, or 201 individuals actually tested the drug. In summary, Fanapt was therefore only tested on 554 people before being approved by the FDA and offered to the United States population of around 300 million citizens. Sounds safe, right? With a page dedicated to side effects including death, seizures, suicide was one of them, and other serious issues, Fanapt also addresses the issue of suicide. As we already know, this class of drugs causes violence and suicide, which means that if Lanza was actually on this little study drug, it would make a lot of sense. Whether or not Lanza was on these particular drugs is yet to be determined for sure, despite a number of outlets reporting that he was indeed on Fanapt or a similar drug. And considering he was being treated for his mental illness also means that he was undoubtedly taking something. What is known, however, is that the continual thread between virtually every major shooting of this caliber involves Big Pharma's suicide and violence linked to drugs. That's pretty much it.